Yeah, there may be a little bit of a contraction, but in essence, if they still want those business functions running, and still offering them up to customers, they still need you to some degree, right? So, which I feel like is a little bit different because internally, on the internal side at companies, I always just felt like I was a number, right? Like I'm just a number. They can get rid of me at any point in time for no reason whatsoever. And that's just how it is, right? Not every company operates that way, but at the end of the day, if the company has to choose between, meeting their shareholders' demands and eliminating you, like you're going to be the first one gone. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, no, I think there's a couple interesting questions you're bringing up, right? So I think one earlier you're alluding to the economic cycles and how consulting businesses adapt and survive these cycles. I think that I experienced. I actually experienced even the one in the early 2000s, the post dot-com cycle, when I started in the industry, and I think that's also a good example to highlight here. Yes, a lot of the consulting industry was shrinking at the time, but what was emerging is for today, it's become cybersecurity consulting. Again, the story repeated in around the 2008, 2009 recession, I think also because cybersecurity consulting and cybersecurity services in general have proven to be somewhat recession resilient. And I'll explain why. And true also for this most recent, recessionary cycle. I think, cybersecurity has got this interesting aspect that's different from other IT consulting or, you know, uh, application, development services or those type of services. Here's the big difference. Security is needed whether the businesses are growing fast or shrinking fast. Both present a very difficult change for the organization to manage and be able to manage the risk of that change. So in a fast growth economy, the businesses are growing fast. They're acquiring, they're expanding, they're investing in new tools and new technologies and people, of course, right? And that needs to be done securely because otherwise there's very, very painful price to pay. Now, the reverse scenario is when they're shrinking fast, they're maybe they're shrinking the headcount or divesting business units and whatnot. Again, presents a big sort of security risk, especially nowadays, right? That's why security services are somewhat recession proof. You think of it from that lens. Different businesses, different security advisory businesses adapt to it differently. I think one common problem that these businesses create for themselves, they grow too fast, they become sort of bloated. And when they can't support enough business because of the economic cycles, they have to shrink the headcount as well. So that's when, you know, some people won't be there. But the cycles also change quickly. And, a lot of these companies actually do have this sort of boomerang culture. I've come across that at companies where they will rehire people who were there before. It's just, it's the timing. Unfortunately, the timing forced them to make those decisions. But I do think the cybersecurity consulting is somewhat recession proof.
Yeah, it seems like it, right? Because it's different, for like internal companies. Because yes, you're paying for a service, and they're not doing absolutely everything, right? Like on an internal security team, you can absolutely be asked to do something that is completely outside of what you were hired for or skilled in or anything, right? But for consulting, you're hiring someone for a very specific task, and if that changes, like there's a lot of different things that have to go with it, and you're not paying for the medical, you're not paying for the retirement. It's just an upfront flat fee, typically, right? And so it's different. It's viewed differently than an actual headcount at a company, right? So I think that both sides have their benefits, their pros and their cons, but it's a fascinating world, right? Because we're in a transition period right now, and I know people that have been unemployed for almost 2 years, right? And they're in a situation where it's like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. Like at this point, I don't know. I'm the type of person that tries to push forward and prepare for the unknown and that sort of thing. So it's just, it's valuable to get that perspective, I guess.
Agreed. Agreed. Yes. Yes, it's painful when you happen to be one of the people who the company says, look, we don't have enough opportunity for you, right? But I don't think it's always true that there is no opportunity in the market for you, for your talent, for your experience. I think it's yes, I know some people also been in the past few months have been unemployed and are looking. But really, the only thing they can do is continue looking for the right opportunities for themselves. And also, there's a great opportunity right now to revisit your skills and kind of do almost like an honest self-assessment of where you think you can improve your skills, whether it's the technical or soft skills or whatnot, and invest in that. You have the time right now, and invest in those gaps that you think are going to help you, with it.
Yeah. No, it's a really great point, and it kind of takes me back to like when COVID kicked off, right? Like when COVID kicked off and we're locked inside, with our significant other or with ourselves, right? I admittedly, yeah, I took a week, caught up on some shows and whatnot, but then after that, and literally every day after that, I was revamping my skills, right? Like I got into content creation. I started creating courses, educational courses. I started to teach on the side, right? I started to do this podcast. I created it then. And all of those things built me in different ways to where, I already had the technical acumen, right? And of course, I've worked on that since then. It hasn't like died off or anything like that. I've become better. At least I feel like I have in those areas. But for someone to be, a technical expert and be able to talk, correctly to someone and explain the problem and, discuss why there's a solution and this is this right solution for you and whatnot, to even just hold a conversation with anyone, of a diverse background like I do on this podcast, that's a skill in and of itself. And that actually makes it, kind of a rare commodity within the IT/security world for employers, because they're like, oh, well, this guy can talk. He's good on the phone. He's good on the webcam, right? He does this podcast. He has the brand and he has the technical skills. I mean, that's something you don't see, very often at all. Right. So it was an interesting opportunity that I definitely took advantage of. But, in an effort, right, to kind of maybe circle back around to Brightive, why don't we talk about the problem that Brightive, was created to solve? Right. And I always want to start there. And I'll tell you why. This is my own personal experience with like IAM in the cloud.
Mhm.
Is we had these cloud providers that, kind of took like almost their legacy approach to IAM and put it into the cloud. And then they made it readily accessible, available, ready to scale for developers to just blow up your environment with a million accounts, a million service accounts, user accounts, all that sort of stuff. And it's like they created, a great solution, and with it came an unsurmountable problem. And that is something that I've experienced firsthand where, I go into an environment and, they have like 1,000-person company and there's 100,000 IDs, right? There's 100,000 user accounts. And I'm sitting here and it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, what's the purpose of having 100,000? What are you getting the value out of it? Like, what do you even know what these are for? Like, I bet I could eliminate 50,000 right now and you won't know what even broke, if anything broke, you know?
Yeah, no, happy to share a little bit of that. How the whole idea kind of crystallized for us to start another company and build a product. It was very much along the lines of what you described.